So I said on my social media that I was going to make a video on Alibaba, and I low-key forgot. So I apologize for that. But either way, this is coming out, I'm recording this video about a week or so before it comes out. But either way, as long as it's still trading in this range, it's still relevant. But thanks for you guys that continue to support and engage and all that good stuff. If you have not subscribed already, please consider doing so. Share with your friends, tell a friend to tell a friend to come over and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can be one of the first to know when I'm dropping new content. And what I do here at my channel is I try my best to provide information based on price action across different areas, and it is my hopes that people can use that information to make more informed decisions, and decisions in their everyday lives. So let's talk about Alibaba. So this is Alibaba's weekly chart, and as you can see, it's been in this descending channel for a good minute now. As we know, or you may not know, China has been in a recession for a minute, but China will likely come out of a recession before the U.S. even admits that we are in a recession here. So do with that what you will. Of course, this is not investment advice or anything like that. But I'm gonna zoom in on the later part of this chart so that we can talk about some of the major levels that I'm keeping an eye on. So first, I'm gonna look at the monthly chart. In the monthly chart so far, we're seeing a shooting star type situation. The price is finally, so sentiment is starting to change on this one, in my opinion. It's been kind of range bound over the past 3 to 4 months or so. So I'm going to highlight that range so that I'll have that visual reminder. So on the monthly chart so far, Alibaba has pretty much been trading between about 80 and about 120. So that's pretty much where the buying and the selling is on the major time frame. So what we see, in terms of market structure is you see the phase 4 over here, markdown phase, and then we've transitioned into phase 1 of the market cycle. So it's just kind of ranging right now. If I were, let's say I were looking at Alibaba as a potential long-term swing or maybe even a leap in the near future, a couple of things that I would probably be looking for, and of course this is just something I'm just throwing out some hypotheses for myself because I've been paying attention to where different economies in the world are in terms of the business cycle. And like I said, China has been in a recession for several months, probably longer than that at this point. But anyway, if I were looking to trade a leap or a long-term swing on Alibaba, a couple of things that I'd be wanting to look for is maybe the price heading back down toward the lower end of this range and even forming a new low out of this range. And then once that holds, possibly buying some calls, maybe at least 9 or so months out in hopes to catch the price transitioning maybe into phase 2 of the market cycle. Now, that's not to say that, I'm 100% sure that Alibaba has bottomed because anything can happen. We know how erratic things can be in terms of dealing with Chinese government. So that's always going to be some risk that's always going to be on the table. But another thing that I'd be looking for is a breakout above this 120s area. And so once I get a break and a hold above that area, then probability may be in my favor to go ahead and position on the bullish side for this ticker, and then I can catch, some of that anticipated upward move. And that's really the best time to trade a stock is when they're in either that markdown phase or that markup phase. So that's phase two or phase four, as the price is trending in at those times. So those are some of the best times to catch a stock is when they're trending. But Alibaba is not trending right now; it's just kind of ranging again. So you got the selling is mostly pretty much above 110 is that supply zone in that range. And then demand zone of this same range is pretty much about 98 and below. So pretty decent range to trade. But I'm gonna, as we get into the lower time frames, I'm gonna talk about how I trade this particular range and how Alibaba's price action typically behaves at certain levels, so at some smaller levels within this overall range. So remember those the major supply and demand zones long term on these charts, on this monthly chart, being above 110 and below 98. So not below 98 being the demand area. So let's talk about the weekly chart. So on the weekly chart, again, I talked about how on the monthly chart, sentiment started to change after a markdown, an extended period of selling off on Baba. The price is holding above the upper trend line of this old channel. So that's something that we like to see. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that the price is breaking out because, as I've stated many times before, the price usually after coming out of a channel, it'll consolidate instead of headed straight back up or straight back down. So that's what we're seeing right now over the past several weeks. It's just been consolidating. So what? So okay. So some levels to watch inside of this zone. Of course, 80. And then this $90 to $98 area. After that, 103 to 105 approximately, and then 108, and then roughly 108 to 110, and then 112 mainly, 112 to 113. So those are some of the main areas or price levels that I watch or I've been watching with Alibaba since it's been trading in this overall 80 to 120 range, so about a 40-point range. So when Alibaba gets down here, it typically pops up to this yellow demand zone. So this is that 90 to about 98, 99 area. But anytime the price retreats to this zone and it holds at 98, the price typically pops up toward that 103 to 105 area. When that 103 to 105 holds, Alibaba typically gaps at least 2 points, so to 107, and then once it's able to get inside 108, it holds, or once it's able to get to 108 and it holds, it goes to 110, and then 112 is almost inevitable. But once it hits 112, it typically has a strong run and strong pop up to 120, maybe a little bit higher than 120, but it's usually not able to sustain that. At least it hasn't over the past several weeks. So that's on a more micro time frame. That selling pressure is really, really strong once the price gets above like 113. So just, something to keep in mind with Alibaba. And then you can see today how, or this week so far, how the price popped up over 110 briefly. Well, actually, the high of this week is 108. So it hasn't been able to hold 108, and now it's back down toward 101 and some change. But if in my opinion, if it's not able to get back into that 103 to 105 area, then Alibaba may come back down inside this, or come back down below 100 and go back into this 98 to 90 area. So I'd be looking for that, or I will be looking for that, especially be looking to see how this candle shapes up uh, well, as we close out the week. Um, but if we have maybe some indecision there, there's a possibility that it could pop. But you definitely have to consider what's going on, with the Chinese economy and things like that, because Baba doesn't necessarily move lock in step with the U.S. Economy. Um, so that's just something to keep in mind. But generally speaking, if there's some weakness in the U.S. economy, you'll see some of that in Alibaba, but it tends to be a little stubborn. So you kind of have to really have patience with this one. It's very volatile, but as long as you keep in mind those levels and the its typical behavior at those levels, you should be fine. Um, but again, don't lose sight of the fundamental narrative right now. The latest news, at least that came out last week, was um, some regulatory news on Didi that caused a bunch of Chinese stocks to pop up. And then there was something about Ant Group that came out that just kind of killed that momentum. So, um, not sure, where things are with that at this point with Ant Group. For now, it's just dead, as far as, that company going public or anything like that. But if anything favorable, so as far as like a long-term narrative on Alibaba, I think something that would really get this thing running long-term is Ant Group. You know, news coming out that the Chinese government has okayed the IPO for Ant Group. So I think that would be one of the major fundamental catalysts that could make Alibaba trend again on a long term chart. So and that's just one of many possible narratives, because you also have to consider where China is in its business cycle and how retail sales are going over there in China, online e-commerce, how that whole situation is looking. Um, I think Russell said something about China is getting ready to go into quantitative easing. So that should be a bullish catalyst for that economy. So that's something that I think Alibaba could definitely benefit from, as people will be, doing a lot of shopping online. So um, that's it with Alibaba, for now at least, so there's no telling how long this thing could range. But either way, I definitely keep an eye on that. But long term, I would probably set an alert at 120, and also set an alert around 80, because if now there's a caveat to that, I would only care about that on the long term time frame. So I need closes above and below those levels, above or below those levels on the monthly chart. You know what I'm saying? So every time that alerts triggers, I'm gonna go and reset it after checking the monthly chart to see, how that's looking. But I'll catch you guys in the next video. I appreciate you watching. Be sure to head on over to chartsandpriceaction.com and check that out. My latest course offering with By the Hood University. We talk about, a bunch of nuances with price action, as well as some practical tips on psychology, and also my trading Bible. So you get a little bit of access to that. Some important, or some of my favorite concepts from that piece of scripture. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.